Going.
Hello.
Hey, Scott. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, great. Excited for the first, I guess, reconvened Planning Infrastructure Transportation Subcommittee or PIT Subcommittee. I think, it'd be really great tonight to hear what the committee's goals are, what topics we want to focus on, if there's particular projects in the community that we're aware of that we want to hear more information on or get speakers from certain groups. So I don't know, Scott, I saw that there was the capital improvement program was like tagged to our subcommittee in the agenda, and I'm not sure exactly what I was supposed to do with that or if that's been assigned as something we should look at. But I don't really have a lot of knowledge about the capital improvement program.
I think that was, we've got a budget presentation later today, and the YAA is looking to make comments perhaps on the budget for FY 2023. And
Okay.
along with the adoption of the budget is the adoption of the capital improvement program.
Okay.
So it seems like if there were thoughts about the budget and CIP, this committee might be suited to looking at those.
Okay. So Eddie, I saw that you had put yes in the chat. Did you have thoughts specifically on potential topics or something to do with the CIP?
Yes. Yes.
Here, go ahead.
So discussing about the planning infrastructure, and so I'm looking forward for transportation on what it needs or wants for people in the community on what is this need for, how can we improve our infrastructure and buses like Fairfax commuter buses and other stuff for our community for riders to get point A to point B, make it more easier.
Okay, so really the public transit is something that you'd be interested in following up on, and transportation improvements, is that an accurate summary?
Yes, and people from disabilities on how they get to make it easier for disabilities. A vision of disabilities to make it more easier for folks from point A to point B about if we can add more buses or not, whether or not if this will be a good idea, the problem is how much it will be for funding, how much it will be. That's why we really need to address this. I'm looking forward.
Okay. Do you know of any particular projects maybe that are within that wheelhouse that we should be tapping into? I mean, of course, we can reach out to Fairfax County Department of Transportation to see if they have any ongoing projects and if they want to come and speak at one of our upcoming subcommittee groups. I believe, I'm not sure if I'm aware of anything that's ongoing. There was the active Fairfax plan, and I know they had already presented to us a while back. And I don't know exactly where in the project phases they are at, and if they've already finished their soliciting feedback or if they want to come back to us and provide any updates. But that might be something just, in transportation throughout the county. So Silverline Phase 2 and Fairfax Connector. Okay. We can see if we can get somebody maybe from WMATA or somebody with the Fairfax Connector to come and speak about their current routes, any proposed expansions and timing and whatnot, and how we can get involved and provide our young adult perspective on those. And Minor, did you have any thoughts?
These all sound good. I think I was having trouble earlier narrowing down more into specifics, so yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and maybe we can, maybe something will come to you as we chat too. So I'm looking at some of, I mean, so we've got the transportation stuff. There is a project called Parking Reimagined. I think they came to I missed that meeting, to the larger committee as a whole. But I didn't know if our group wanted to kind of follow that along as well and opine, because if they're looking at parking rates throughout the county, that could be something that we're interested in. Obviously, reducing required parking spaces is potentially a good thing, but we might want to weigh in and provide comments. So I think that the new rates are expected to be released between April and June of this year. So maybe that's something an eye on, and see if we need to bring them back at all once those new rates come out.
I think that's a good idea.
Another, I know, again, we've got a lot under the PIT, under planning, infrastructure, and transportation. That's a lot that falls under that umbrella. I didn't know if there were any affordable housing initiatives that would fall under this planning and infrastructure, and if that would be of any interest to this subcommittee. If we wanted to reach out to the Housing and Community Development Group to see if there's any projects that are ongoing. I don't know, Scott, if you know of anything, any affordable housing initiatives that people are soliciting feedback on.
There are, particularly maybe for the representatives in the Mount Vernon and Lead districts, there is the Manufactured Housing Task Force that's looking at manufactured housing, how that provides affordability, and how this could be impacted. That's not the only location, but the majority of them are in that corridor. The board also just this week proposed to double our goal for providing affordable housing. And so there could be additional items from their strategic plan that might be worth that might be open and amenable to YAA comment. And just to circle back, and I'll have to look, but I know I did just get something from Transportation Department in my home mailbox looking for input on some plan that they're seeking input on. I can't remember what, but that might be an opportunity for their first item.
Okay, that is good. Yeah, because I'd heard things about like the active transportation plan. I think I found that that's supposed to be completed by the end of 2022, and they're already in the recommendation and implementation phase. So we may not have anything to add to that at this point.
And I know the board recently adopted the Fairfax connector route changes that were under review for phase 2. So they did approve on that plan. So that one is also done. Okay. But I don't know what they were reaching out to me on. I'll try to figure that out and circle back.
That would be great. Eddie?
Yes, that will be implementation once the Silver Line phase 2 will be open, and we have to make an adjustment on which routes could be made with more ridership, depending on how many riders provide for ridership, on what the people need or want, how much will be a funding that, how much the total costs. There's things we have to do. What I want, or what do we need to improve our buses? Like every 30 minutes, or every 30 minutes, or 1 hour, or to expand early mornings, or midday, or evening. Make sure people ridership from hardworking people get to the job, to get to home, or whichever they want to point A for destination. Yeah.
Okay. Trying to see if there's anything else on my list. I don't know, would climate work be covered under this subcommittee? Because there's a lot of climate change initiatives that are ongoing in the county, if this subcommittee is interested in participating in those.
I think, affordable housing and transportation, I think it's important to look at like sustainability when you're building these projects. So I don't know, maybe.
Affordable housing is a big issue. Like the rent's going
Okay.
very up, the rent.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah,
would
we
add,
can absolutely go ahead.
oh, I was just going to add, along with sort of climate change, and there's programs that look at, CO2 emissions and reducing the materials that contribute to climate change. There's also a whole set of planning studies and work done on resiliency to speak to maybe Manor, what you were talking about how do we build and how do we create places that are resilient to the impacts of climate change or weather changes and things like that. So there's a big resiliency plan. It has a community planning effort. And I think that would apply across all of the infrastructure in the county.
Yeah, I'd really like to see if they could come to one of our committee meetings. And I think the timing's actually really great because the Resilient Fairfax plan is being released for public comment in April. So if we could get them in May, because I think that's when we meet again as a subcommittee, I think that might, if you all are interested in hearing from them and weighing in, I think the timing works really well that because it is going to be brought to the board this fall. So if we can get in kind of this spring, provide our comments from a young adult perspective, hear a presentation, provide like supplemental letter or something from our subcommittee, I think that might be helpful for them to hear from us. So. Are there any other or projects or ideas, things that you I don't want to say don't like in Fairfax County, but problems that we want to help solve and provide solutions for? Anything that comes to mind?
Affordable rent or affordable living. And what does this mean for the highways and roads need to be improvement on readjusting the roads, like roads will be changed because my area is affecting because I heard there'll be a study for making adjustment on fixing our roads, making more different, reduce traffic, highways
Okay.
and roads.
Alrighty. And affordable rent, costs of living.
I had one other item that I wanted to put forward for your consideration that it seems like it could fit here. Is the county has been doing a countywide master arts plan that has been in development for a couple of years, or 18 months or so, and I believe that they'll be going out again, kind of in the spring, summer, for public comment and consideration for prior to maybe an adoption by the board later this year. And so that is looking at what are the cultural assets and art facilities that are in Fairfax County. Where are there perhaps deficiencies in helping to make more livable areas and provide that kind of cultural center, and has recommendations for how to implement that. And so if that is something, and it's all kinds of arts and even music and performance spaces or concert halls, so if that's something that would be of interest and providing comment, I think that timing would line up in the next 6 months or so.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Who is the lead agency or contact on that? Do you know?
Yes. So it's the Fairfax Arts Council, and Lila Gordon, who is the executive director at the Reston Community Center, but is kind of the expert on all things arts on the county. And Neighborhood and Community Services also has a big role.
So for if there are topics that we want to pursue as a subcommittee, do we work with Jarrett and you, Scott, are you all going to be reaching out? Okay. So it's basically on us to say, hey, we want to hear these things in the next couple of months, and then you all can reach out. Okay.
Yep.
So
And we'll help.
it
And
sounds
also, if just like you mentioned with affordable housing or other kind, or the transportation outreach, if you've identified that those are things you'd like to learn more about, we can come back to you with timing and programs that might align, and or who are the right resources to help address the questions that you've asked.
Okay. So it sounds like from our conversation, we'd definitely be interested in transportation, affordable housing initiatives, the resiliency, the resilient Fairfax. And then I don't know, what do you all think? Do you all think you'd also be interested in weighing in on the master arts plan, given the timing as well?
What is a master?
I didn't catch that. Can you say that one more time, Eddie?
Yes. Good question. What is a martial arts thing? Can you explain what it is?
Sure. What they're trying to do is look at what existing cultural and art facilities exist in Fairfax County. So you may know recently there's a new facility that opened in Tyson's, Capital One Hall, but there are a number of arts facilities and cultural facilities that are located in the county. There's a number of performance groups, and then also looking at how arts can support economic development and help to create communities and places where people want to live, and tries to identify then where are the existing assets, where are there maybe areas that don't have as many as it could potentially support, and then what are ideas to help grow and expand those within the county. And either the value of having arts in these communities or perhaps not. And so I think that perspective would be great to get your all's thoughts in terms of arts having places to go out and convene, and what types of arts facilities. Is it museums, or is it other kinds of live performances or other types of things?
Yeah, I would definitely be interested in hearing about that and providing our perspective. I do think when you think of performance venues or art museums, you think DC, you don't think Fairfax County. And I think we have an opportunity to, provide, based on our location, we should have those venues as well. Why don't we have something like the Anthem or the 930 Club so yeah, I think that would be really great. And, I would see our group as somebody that would be a target audience that would be, going to these venues. So yeah, I'd love to hear about that project and provide our input. So Scott, I don't know if you have any guidance. And I mean, I feel like those 4 topics are pretty big. And that's like a big bite to, take into this, our first kind of like the next 7 to 10 months. So what else do you need from us as part of this discussion tonight?
I think the only thing I wanted to confirm, because transportation is so big and broad,
Yeah.
it sounded like there was really a focus on maybe transit services and public transportation and transit versus roads. But maybe it is all. I wanted to kind of confirm what the primary interest in transportation, or what the priorities would be.
Do y'all have any thoughts on fine tuning that a little bit? I mean, I think the public transit is definitely something that has always been ever changing kind of target.
Yes.
And
Yes, public transportation is a big issue for some kind of districts and people trying to get to point A to point B. About that will make it hard for those folks, especially in my area, Surrey District. Because whenever Surrey District will have open families from people to get to when the civil line's going to open, people can go there to get to the airport, whichever jobs, which will go point A, point B. And we heard the civil line's coming to the area and Antonio District and all stuff. We thought Chantilly University District could get opportunity to expand more buses or expand working people to get to point A to point B in future once the civil line is open.
Yeah, and I guess that's the other piece that, thank you, Eddie, for making sure I had, is just sort of an update on phase 2 phase 2 plans and opening. I know there's always a lot of interest and not a lot of answers at the moment, but definitive answers. But I'll make sure to grab that.
Yeah, I think that is, again, something that really affects young adults, and especially during the pandemic, having the service reductions has really affected people trying to get to work, trying to get to different areas throughout the county and the DC area, So I think, yeah, we should definitely keep our eye on the public transit piece and get some updates from the relevant people working on those projects. So that would be great. I know we still have 27 minutes, Scott. Like I said, is there anything, do we need to like talk about our hopes and dreams for young adults in Fairfax County, or or have we achieved the goal of our subcommittee meeting?
So I'll ask, just because I was looking at my notes for when Denver kind of introduced this. So sort of talking about the 6-month plan, topic areas of potential speakers, which I think you've got a plan for. And then talked about perhaps deliverables and SMART goals. I don't know if you had any thoughts on what you thought the deliverables would be for any or all of those.
So, and I wish that Sarah was here because I think she has really strong feelings on how we then, go from information gathering to action items. And I think that that's something that I would love, to hear thoughts from the subcommittee on. Typically, what I've seen to be kind of the most effective change is providing comments early on in the planning processes, that those can actually be folded into the plans. I feel like a lot of times committees kind of either hear about it too late or wait too late to provide their feedback, and then it's like only minor tweaks can be made at that point. Like, I don't want to wait till public hearing stages for these different plans to all of a sudden show up and speak. So I would like to see deliverables like early provision of comments through letters or through us, having follow-up meetings with the staff that come and present to us and sharing our comments and sharing our thoughts. And then I also think it'd be helpful for either me as the subcommittee chair or different people to take turns talking to their board members or the chairman, once we do feel strongly about something, and sharing that information early to get our recommendations out there. So I think it'd be both kind of written deliverables, but also having those meetings and conversations with the relevant decision makers, if we feel, like I said, we feel really strongly, or if we're getting pushback to our comments or disagreement with our comments. But I don't know, do you all have any thoughts on deliverables for us on these topics over the next couple of months?
No, I think that's a really good idea. I do think if you hear it early on, I mean, again, don't have much experience as you, but it makes a lot of sense to provide comments earlier.
Okay.
And then that'll help us as well. So we'll try to figure out which of these initiatives we talked about are kind of in that early planning stage or that preliminary outreach versus waiting for a plan that's going to be presented to the board or a public hearing. That's very helpful. Thank you.
And then I'm not sure I know what a SMART goal is. Do you know what a SMART goal is?
Oh, good ask me.
Each one of
the, it's an acronym.
Oh, okay.
Measurable, actionable. But I think actually one of the things I think that would be well, and maybe Denver can talk more, but I think each one of these programs should, have goals and outcomes that they're trying to achieve, and understanding what those are, and then maybe your comments being about, your thoughts on should that be higher or lower, or how do those align with your concerns, and really talking about those program initiative goals makes a lot of sense to me.
Okay. Yeah, because I think, for me, it's like I have a hard time figuring out what my goal is until I hear about the project specifically, so it's like I can see our subcommittees coming up with goals after we hear about the project. Okay, the goal is for this outcome specifically. But in general, we want to obviously effectuate change that benefits the young adult community throughout Fairfax and in each of our magisterial districts, and be active, engaged community members. But like I said, I think there's some general, very broad that we'd like to do with this. And then we're gonna figure out what our specific targets are for each project as we learn more about them. So.
Although I think I heard a goal of having a 9:30 or an anthem club as part of the arts plan.
That would be my personal goal. I am so tired of trekking out to the wharf and then waiting in traffic and paying $25 to park in that dang parking garage. So yes, my goal is a Fairfax County music venue that I can take public transit to and not have to park in the parking garage.
See, those are good, smart
Yeah,
goals that we can just
Yeah.
build on.
Go ahead,
I
Eddie.
prefer the parking lot to make it affordable.
That's fair. Yeah, I would park in a free parking garage. That's not
Like, make
$25.
the problem is, there's so many inflation, there's so many that the gas prices went up, and I have to tell you something. Like, some of this stuff went up, but I wish they could reduce it down for help for low income families, low income people or families to what they need or want, like transportation, stuff, and rent too. And it's the big issue that we need to propose a situation like create a like the prices need to be right, make it affordable. Those people make them tight budget affordable.
Yeah, and that lends into the budget process as well, of course, and how we're allocating funding and what priorities the board has selected, to fund. So yeah.
And one other question that Eddie, again, you made me think of in terms of affordable housing, which is also a broad topic. And there's been a lot of focus previously, or there continues to be a lot of focus just in adding more affordable housing units. And many of those end up being rental units and in apartments. But there is sort of the first time homebuyers program and more affordable home ownership. I think, Casey, you were talking about buying a new home, and Sarah was mentioning getting into the home buying game. So I didn't know if home ownership and first time homebuyer programs would be something that would interest this group as well.
Those people who want to buy a home or live in an apartment, can't pay and live, because the rent is so expensive, they can't, the some low income families can't afford to put food on the table and pay for on the table and living. And people want to live, to find jobs, do anything stuff to do. That's why we need to address it for people and myself. We just most people.
Yeah, I think home ownership is also just such a generational happening right now too, because there's so many of our peers that, you know, once you're stuck in that rental cycle, it's so hard to save up for the down payment. And you have student loans, you have your car payment, you've got this high rental rate, and it's almost like you can't ever get out of that, and you're watching the home prices go up and up and up and up. So I think that's a great point, Scott. If there's some way we can hear about the first time home buyer programs and what the county's doing to help first time home buyers out and make sure that people can take the step from rental to owning a home. Because obviously that's the biggest piece of wealth, that you are ever going to have. Like that's how you acquire wealth and that's how you build equity. So I think that would be really important. I think that's a great point that you raised. And then, I'm also interested in other affordable housing tools. I don't I know we've talked about missing middle at high level approach, but I kind of think that might be another topic to see what the county's been up to and then see if there's some consideration. It seems like we have a lot of rental and condos, and we have a lot of multi-million dollar houses, and there's not a lot of the starter homes. And then we're seeing the starter homes get purchased by builders that are then flipping them or making a McMansion. So it's like, what can we do to preserve some of that existing affordable housing stock? And I don't know if there's any good answers or good active policies that are being looked at right now, but that's something that I think might be relevant to our group as well. Have we ever, I know our group is new, would there ever be any consideration to like bringing other counties in to talk about what like our neighboring jurisdictions to see what they're doing? Like Arlington County is doing a big missing middle and affordable housing study. I'm almost wondering, like, is that something that maybe obviously we have a ton that we're working on, but is that something maybe we want to hear from them so we can be like, hey board, or hey whoever, like, we support kind of what they're doing over here. They have a great program. I don't know.
I think it's a great idea.
Thinking out loud.
I just really want to reiterate like the home ownership idea. I'm currently serving my AmeriCorps term with Habitat for Humanity because that's basically what I do all day. But yeah, home ownership is very important, and I think for long-term residents, or to keep long-term residents, that's an important aspect. And a lot of times we see a lot of young adults move out to, Prince William County, Stafford County, because it's just a little more affordable to live there. So I think that is something that we should definitely focus on.
And you'll be a great asset to us with that background. That's amazing. You can be our expert then. Great. Okay, cool. There was something else that just made me think of. Now I'm drawing a blank. So Eddie's in the Sully district. And Manor, where are you from? Which district are you representing?
Mount Vernon district.
Mount Vernon. Okay.
With Habitat building and the Route 1 as well. So
great. Okay, so we have different district representing. I just moved to the Mason, or not yet. Next week I moved to the Mason district. I'm in the Providence now. So we've got us all spread out then. So any other clarification items you need from us, Scott? Sorry to keep putting you on the spot and asking you for guidance.
No, this is great. This is really, between affordable housing, climate change resiliency, cultural plan, and transportation. It's a couple of months of work.
I think we have a little bit to do. We're just gonna save the world in the subcommittee meeting. So, and I do think too, a lot of these topics will be important for us to report back to our larger group on, because I think these are topics that a lot of people are going to be interested in. So it'll be great for us to kind of do the deep dive and then report back and loop people in and bring them into the fold. So that's exciting.
That's great.
Yeah. So do we just want to take like a 15-minute break until the big committee starts, or do you want, like I said, is there anything else we want to discuss?
I was wondering if, sorry, you mentioned the manufactured housing program earlier. Could you just remind me a little about it? Because I think someone at work also mentioned it, so I was wondering if that was like the same thing.
Sure, I will send you some information, but the county's put together, I think it's called the Manufactured Housing Task Force. And it's really, we have manufactured housing communities kind of all around Fairfax County, but there's, I want to say almost like 85% of all the manufactured housing units are in that Richmond Highway corridor. There's a number of large ones there. And they're extremely affordable units, but to Casey's point, they don't really necessarily build wealth. And there's a variety of other, issues with manufactured housing. That business model is changing pretty dramatically over the last couple of years, with more national players who are consolidating maybe family-owned ones. And I think in the Richmond Highway Corridor, there's been some long-term family-owned mobile home parks or manufactured housing parks that are being sold. And there's concerns about displacement, redevelopment, and how to address that. And so I think the manufactured housing task force is trying to look at a variety of those items and figure out what an appropriate strategy is. So that's kind of my big picture off the top of my head, but I'll definitely send you additional information. And we'll, I think it might make sense, depending on where they are in that process, to have somebody come to the group relatively soon to sort of talk about that work, that impact, and address some of the things that you raised earlier. But I'll make sure to send you additional information about it, and who's participating on that task force, so that you can see if that links up to some of your work life.
That'd be great. Thanks, Scott. That was a really great summary off the top of your head, too.
I hope it's right.
We're holding you to it. No, I'm just kidding. Any other questions, comments?
And then I think the only thing, Casey, you kind of asked, I think, at the 7 o'clock meeting, after the discussion, the presentation on the budget and the discussion, I think Denver had looked for maybe a report out in terms of what these topics are. So if you're able to report out on what you're thinking the 6-month plan is and the major topics, I think that's all that you kind of need from now.
Perfect. I can absolutely do that.
And I'm sure we'll all be here to help.
Yes, I was going to say, feel free, any of you, to jump in, and because I was taking notes and then I started talking more than taking notes. So feel free to opine during the big committee meeting as well. So, okay, well, how about we just take a little 10-minute break, and we'll see you back at the big committee meeting at 7. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.